So my name is Cyrus Tabery, and I'm really happy to be here with this audience and presenting on this topic. It's something that I'm really excited about, and I think it's super important for our society, and I think there's going to be value for our company too, to really pay attention to how the brain works and understand the chemistry of the body well. So the title of my talk is How to Feed the Beast, Intermittent Fasting for Your Brain, right? So how can you get optimum function out of your brain to enable you to have longevity and also intensity in your work? So, I have this one meal a day, and I put this on the title slide, but I'm gonna come back to this. So it's a very long talk. I had a hard time making it shorter because I didn't want to leave stuff out, and I went back and forth a little bit about how to organize this best, but I'm going to briefly go through the health landscape and talk about insulin resistance. So this is the root cause of chronic disease in our society today. I'll talk a little bit about religion and fasting, hydration, sodium, fat, diabetes, human body model for metabolism, talk about some really a sad story kind of the American Heart Association diet and the U.S. dietary recommendations and the pinnacle of that, which is this biggest loser diet, which is really sad, and contrast that to what I do, which is called intermittent fasting. So this is a fasting tool, a therapeutic fasting approach to maximize brain function and longevity and body health. So I'll talk about the metabolic implications of fasting pretty deeply, go through some recent journal articles, and talk about what I do, and talk briefly about alcohol as well. So America, the world, is in an epidemic of obesity, right? So if you look at the past 25 years, I highlighted my home state here, Texas, which is the 10th fattest state, with 30-something% of the population being obese. If you look in China and children, it's dramatically growing up. Mississippi, overweight and obese is 67% of the population. So this is, I found an estimate of $200 billion a year cost from this. So the root cause of this is actually crystal clear. The science on this has come in relatively recently, and I'm going to come back to this. But it's basically high meal frequency that causes insulin resistance and obesity. So there's this hyperinsulinemia positive feedback loop, and this is the killer problem of our diet strategy today. We have high frequency meals that lead to high levels of insulin. When you eat, you make insulin. It's unavoidable. It's what your body is designed to do. That's how you control blood sugar. And you can talk about diabetes, and the type 1 diabetic can't make insulin. Their pancreas doesn't make it. They have a missing gene. They can't make the protein. They can't make insulin, and they end up with an extremely dangerous and a disease that basically would typically be fatal, but now they can work around it with insulin injections. So why do we have high frequency meals? Well, we just have our 3 squares. That's what everyone does. But really, it's sugar addiction. You get into a body state where you can't really operate without sugar, without a constant high sugar level in your blood. You feel like you don't have energy. So in that state, you're addicted to sugar, you have high frequency meals, your insulin goes up, you have decreased insulin sensitivity because your body always has high insulin, and you become insulin resistant. And this is inevitable, and everyone has it to varying degrees, and based on your genetic predisposition, you either start out lean and you get fat as you get old, or you start out fat and you die of obesity when you're younger, right? So those are the 2 options of this meal strategy. I'm not kidding. This is killer. This is a killer feature of our current society, and this is easy to fix by fasting. So someone said put the summary first, and I'm going back and forth on this, but I just said it. High frequency meals is the root cause of insulin resistance. Fasting for brain function benefits are really well known to the world's religions, and maybe I'll come back to this this conclusion slide. But the key is that intermittent fasting is a revolutionary diet tool to improve focus. We can really make our brains operate better if we forego food on occasion, right? So, this is coming from evolution. I'll talk a little bit more about what I do. I do these 2 fasting periods of 24 hours twice a week, and that really works well for me. Longer fasts and ketogenic diets, that is, diets that are ultra low in carbs, are super valuable for healing metabolic disease. If you are super overweight or you have type 2 diabetes and you're on the path to sclerosis of the arteries, then doctor supervision, ketogenic, long fasts, you can heal yourself from type 2 diabetes relatively quickly, within a year or something. Depends on how overweight you are to start. And I think there's a lot more research needed on the impact of fasting on disease, brain function, over time, and IQ. So this is what I did. So my weight was starting to drift up a little bit. This is kind of half a decade time scale. And then in January of 16, I weighed 205 pounds. It wasn't fat. That wasn't that bad. I'm fairly insulin sensitive to start. But after, a few months, I lost 30 pounds. And I feel fabulous, right? I don't care how I look. All I care about is my brain. A buddy of mine has done this as well, and I think there's more people, but, if your ancestors had gotten really slow and tired and cold from fasting, they wouldn't be your ancestors, right? Imagine yourself huddled in your cave. You're like, should I go out there and eat? Or should I stay in here and die? Well, guess what? If you're hungry, your brain needs to work well, right? If you are, rationing your food and eating just a little bit every day, then you're stuck with what you got, right? So those are the 2 modes, right? Am I hungry and ready to go out and do something, or am I rationing myself? And so even if I have excess of calories, but I'm always eating, then I become insulin resistant, and I have this disease. So every religion has fasting as a component of faith, right? And if you go and read the texts from all these different religions and what they say about fasting, they say you should fast to improve brain function, right? And that's what I care about. I care about my brain. I'm not a model. I don't care how I look. I feel really, really strongly improved focus, attention, diligence, concentration, depth of thought from fasting and metabolism, right? So, every religion, like I said, has fasting as part of it, except for Pastafarians. So this is a joke. I don't know if you guys know about Pastafarians. It was a backlash against too much religion in society, but I think that the fasting element of all of these religions is super valuable, right? So, scholars and monks and scribes and scientists and visionary leaders of religion, all these people fasted to improve their thinking, right? So these are my people, right? I'm a monk. I want to be a monk of IC design and lithography, right? And there's no soda on this guy's workstation, right? He's not drinking soda all day, no way. So I think not drinking clean water is a really, really bad plan. And I was wondering, hey, did these religions, is the dogma of religion come about because water was often tainted? Yes, that's my hypothesis. Doesn't have any basis in study, except I thought about it and I think it's a good hypothesis. But if you look down the list here, Christianity, we're in Lent right now. This is a good time to talk about it, right? They have rogation days, and all Fridays you should fast. And some religious practices in Christianity do exclude water. Hindu often excludes water. Judaism specifically excludes water for the 6 fasting days that they set per year. Islam, of course, has Ramadan and the 30-day fast, which, if I look at it scientifically based on macronutrients now, that's not how I would design a fast. It doesn't make any sense to me. And some modern Pastafarians do promote fasting, which is another joke. So, drink lots of water. It's fundamental to your body. If you increase hydration, this recent journal article showed increased excretion of sodium and urea and a flat potassium. So you don't excrete more potassium. So a healthy kidney is really a beautiful thing. The way I think about it is that increased concentration gradient across the nephron is valuable. It increases the waste excretion mechanisms, which are really valuable, right? So here's the nephron TEM. No ASML presentation would be okay without a good electron microscope. I love electron microscopes. There's these charged permeable membranes and size permeable membranes, the loop of Henle and the rest of the nephron. It's really key. So, you want to hear a joke about chemistry? Nah, no, we don't want to hear that. The low salt recommendation is likely wrong. And low salt diets treat a side effect, right? So if you have hypertension and you lower your salt intake, you will lower your blood pressure. It's true. It's a consequence of the function of the kidney. But the hypertension, typically the root cause of it is metabolic disorder. It's that insulin resistance. And salt reduction is a treatment of the side effect. And it actually increases morbidity, according to these studies that I clipped from YouTube videos from Dr. Fung. But I think that a lot of the conventional wisdom around diet, low sodium, hypertension, and fat are all wrong, right? So high fat diets are actually good for you. Decades of searching, no correlation of fat fraction in diet and disease, right? So all the past 30 years dietary recommendations are all wrong, in my opinion. Trans fat does kill. So if you look at these trans fat molecules here, this trans bond, these sp2 bonds don't occur in nature, right? No plants make trans fat. But if you take that plant fat and hydrogenate it under a palladium catalyst at high pressure, sometimes the bond flips. You'll end up with a mixture of cis and trans in that fat product. And you can buy it in the store. It's called Crisco, and it never rots because bacteria don't even want to freaking eat it. Don't eat it. Do not eat trans fat. They should measure it in milligrams, not grams. Like if you go and look on the package, first ingredient, hydrogenated vegetable oil, fat, 1 gram, trans fat, 0. Is that like 0.49? It makes me angry. Trans fat should be measured in milligrams. Anyways, too excited. Let's see. Mediterranean diet, high quality diet, vegetables, nuts all have a healing effect. Fat, saturated fat, polyunsaturated fat they support the null hypothesis. So these are meta-analysis of hundreds of thousands of patients across a population of journal articles that are all aggregated into this one kind of aggregating journal article, and there's no correlation of fat in the diet and disease. Okay, so let's talk about diabetes. Ancient Hindus noticed that some people, ants, would be attracted to their urine, right? There's this emaciating diseases, right? There's brown sugar-like substance in urine. And finally, in the 20th century, insulin was isolated and produced, and it basically solved the type 1 diabetes. It was fundamentally, it's a required, molecule for the functioning of the body, and it healed people. But in the 90s, we're like, wow, we have this diabetes problem. It's growing, and it wasn't until 2011, and this was the Banting medal, which is scientific achievement medal in the diabetes community, was given for this work saying that hyperinsulinemia is the root cause of insulin resistance, obesity, and diabetes. So then, it wasn't until 2011 that we really had the root cause of the type 2 diabetes. That is the drifting up of the weight, the insulin resistance that comes over long periods of time with high frequency meals. So, it's an epidemic. This guy, Dr. Fung, figured it out in 2013, and he wrote a lecture series called The Etiology of Obesity, where he basically detailed a lot of the same stuff that I'm showing today, and I started intermittent fasting in 2016. So, insulin is the metabolism regulator molecule, right? So if you eat food, you increase insulin and you store fat. You stop your fat metabolism if you eat carbohydrates. So just keep that in mind. If you eat some fat and some carbs together, you're going to store that fat. That's okay, but plan on it. If you don't eat food, your insulin goes down and you burn the stored sugar in the liver. I read a nutrition book just recently, and they showed this energy balance. Like they're like, oh yeah, the energy balance is all that matters. It's a one compartment model. If you eat whatever you eat, if you exercise more, you'll lose weight. If you eat more, you'll gain weight. That's completely wrong, right? Your weight is regulated. There's enzymes and hormones in your body that control your metabolism. So if you eat a little bit of food, your body will lower its metabolism to that level. If you eat a lot of food, you'll increase your metabolism. So what do you want? Do you want do you want to be sick and tired and cold, or do you want to have a high metabolism and high energy? Low calorie diets are wrong, right? They are bad for you. They will make you sick and tired and cold. So the 2-compartment model is correct. So it's the calories in and the insulin regulation that says, hey, we're going to shunt this food into the freezer and store it, or we're going to put it in the fridge for tomorrow's use, or we're going to burn it right now. So insulin is the molecule that controls the 2-compartment model. Am I shunting the energy into the fridge and the freezer, or am I burning it and pushing it out the door? So, in this house we obey the laws of thermodynamics, so I agree with that. And people, say, oh, it's a 1-compartment model. Totally wrong. The obesity epidemic is not as simple as a 1-compartment model. Okay. So, fasting empties the fridge. So this is 22 days of alternate day fasting. This is some data from clinical nutrition that shows the fat oxidation rate, grams per day of fat oxidation, goes from 60 to 100 when you fast, alternate day fasting. So this is a dramatic increase in your fat metabolism by fasting. Alternate day fasting is, 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off. So again, there's a lot of different fasting approaches, and the implications and your starting condition have a big impact on what makes sense for you. But alternate day fasting, it can be a good way to quickly lose weight if you need to do that. So I guess this is a graphic of 3 meals, and then insulin levels in blue and blood glucose in red. So, every time you eat a high carb meal, you have this big insulin spike, and then you start to feel hungry again. And then you eat again and you start to feel hungry. And you eat again and you start to feel hungry. And then overnight, typically, you will run out the stored glycogen in your liver, and it has a longer time constant, but it's not until your liver is empty that you start to have a low insulin state. And that time in the low insulin state is fundamental to your health. If you do not have low insulin, sometimes you will not be healthy. So, this is a long-term, this is fast for 30 days. This is some blood chemistry. Looks kind of like a model to me. But it's saying that, at day 0, you stop burning carbs because you stop eating, and your fat metabolism shoots up. You start using fat and ketones to fuel the brain. You do continue to use a small amount of protein over time, but the starvation mode, or you're going to go burn up your muscles, is not what happens. It's not reality, and I'll show some more data on that in a second. Yeah, here you go. You don't burn muscle, right? So if you say, oh, if I fast, I'm just going to burn up my muscles, that's like saying if you're in your your winter cabin and you've been filling up your cabin with wood all summer, and now you're in there and you're like, okay, now it's time to start a fire. Am I going to chop up my couch and burn it, or am I going to burn all this wood? No, I'm not going to chop up my couch. Those are my muscles. I need those, right? I want to keep that. Your body's not so stupid as to start burning your muscles. It's not what happens, right? And so this is, again, 70 days of alternate day fasting. Fat-free mass, that's basically everything but fat. You start at 52 kilos. At the end of that time, 52 kilos. You do not burn your muscles, right? You're not going to eat yourself, the important parts of yourself. You will burn your fat if you fast. That's what I'm saying. So there was a recent publication detailing intermittent energy restriction diet regimes, and none of them are the one that I actually chose to do. But there's a regular meal plan, which is 3 squares and snacks, some of them late at night. Right? This is killer. This will prevent you from ever getting into a low insulin state, and this is the one that made everyone fat and gave them diabetes. It's bad. If you eat just during the day, I eat something like this on my non-fasting days, and then on my fasting days, I actually eat dinner, right? So I didn't start out obese. I didn't have that much weight to lose, and I feel great doing this, right? So if you decide to fast, listen carefully to your body. in addition to understanding the chemistry. If you have those two things in your mind, I think you can really be successful. So this is what I do. I skip 2 consecutive meals twice a week, and I decided just to skip breakfast and lunch on Mondays and Thursdays, and no snacks at night. Well, anyway, when I feel tired? No. Fasting dramatically increases your metabolism. Do I seem tired to you guys? I'm fasting today. The molecule mix changes from pure glucose to glucose plus ketones. And, there's an epidemic of Alzheimer's. And so I heard a doctor recently call it type 3 diabetes. It's when the brain becomes insulin resistant and cannot metabolize glucose anymore. But if you feed it ketones, your brain works better. That's why all the religious guys said fast as part of religion. But even your baseline metabolism, your basal resting energy expenditure, that's this REE here, goes up 10% when you fast. So you will have 10% more energy if you fast. Your VO2 max, your maximum oxygen aspiration rate, how quickly can I use oxygen, goes up when you fast. This is good. This is good for athletes. A lot of athletes now are using intermittent fasting as part of their training regimes. But it gets better. The human growth hormone increases dramatically in response to fasting. So this is a molecule that's your body makes and produces to give you sex drive, to improve elasticity in your skin, to keep your bones healthy and strong and dense. To allow you to build muscle mass. If you go and ask the steroid user of the 80s, he was all roided out and strong. Yeah, it increases your muscle mass, But, producing it naturally in your body is super valuable. It's super important. So working out during fasting is actually really easy. It's aided, right? You will have more useful time in the gym if you're fasting when you're in the gym. Okay, so this is the next big one, and this is maybe the biggest, especially when it comes to longevity, that fasting allows cellular repair mechanisms to kick in, right? So insulin, we talked about insulin already, it inhibits autophagy and apoptosis. So autophagy is when proteins inside of your cell are repaired. So there's a lot of oxidative stress or damage to your cells and to proteins inside your cells from free radicals and other environmental impacts, effects. And if you have high insulin, your cell says, wait a second, we're starving in a cave eating little bits of carbs every day. We don't have energy or time to go into repair now. And your body does not repair itself. So the sclerosis of the arteries comes about, and the inflammation, a lot of these diseases that we have are coming because your cells are never having the time in the low insulin state to actually repair. So this is a rat model study where they're doing fluorescence on these repairing cells, and so they have the normal media, the normal nutrient-rich media, and then they took away the insulin and added the glucagon, and then this autophagy kicks up. So it's not until you have the glucagon high and insulin low that the autophagy kicks into effect and starts to repair your cells. So you look old. You will look sick if you eat carbs all the time. It's bad. So age-related frailty comes from lack of HGH. So this repair and aging are both heavily related to the decline over age that happens from testosterone. So this is the free testosterone in nanomoles per liter from a young person down to an old person, right? So fasting is perhaps better than Viagra, right? So there's another good little hint. Someone asked me about iron and calcium and the implications of that and fasting. So I found an article, and I don't think there's enough research on this, but it said that serum ferritin could be a marker of insulin resistance. So they were seeing anti-correlation of iron in the blood and insulin resistance. So if you're insulin resistant, you are more predisposed to anemia. And a lot of women today have a lot of problem with anemia and getting enough iron and taking iron supplements or stuff like that. No, it's all wrong, right? Because the insulin resistance is blocking the mechanism of, mobilizing iron in the blood. So, and maybe calcium too. I think this needs more study. This is a bone density scan example. So, what's the option to fasting? It's the crap diet. you can do the calorie reduction as primary. So energy restrictions, but with high meal frequency, you can lose weight. You can do it, right? It's hard, and if you don't do it, then you say, oh, you must have weak willpower, right? It's an incredibly sad thing. I'm going to come back to this in a second, but the Biggest Loser diet, according to USA Today, is the third best diet for overall weight loss, right? And if you look at this Biggest Loser health study that they did, these people went from 329 pounds to 202 pounds in 14 weeks, right? So they lost a lot of weight. There was some hot model with a whip making them run every day, and they fed them nothing. But guess what? To those poor people, their metabolism was reduced by 700 calories per day. So they went from having energy to having no energy. During the show they still ran, but their fat-free mass was dramatically reduced, and their metabolic rate was reduced, right? So this approach of having, eat a bunch of small meals or eat these little tiny meals and try to lose weight, it had its really killer effect on these people. And I heard a quote that said, there's no reunion show for the Biggest Loser because they all got fat again, right? It didn't work, right? They were predisposed to insulin resistance, and then the high meal frequency gave them this metabolic disorder. If you follow up with those people after the show, their metabolic rate declined further because they started exercising less. So, the Biggest Loser diet's super extreme and unhealthy, in my opinion. But there's this other thing called bariatric surgery. That's where you basically chop off your stomach. And if you do that, your fasting or your resting metabolism does not go down. So these people lose all the weight. It kind of works. It has a lot of complications because you chopped off your stomach. That's not very nice. I like to eat. I don't want to lose my stomach. But, if you're super obese, you might think, I'm desperate. I need to do that. So why? What is it about bariatric surgery that didn't lead to the metabolism loss? It's because you can never get your insulin high, and you basically become insulin sensitive again if you have bariatric surgery. So, bariatric surgery does work, but I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. Fasting is better. Okay, so how to escape, right? How do I escape this the sugar addiction and this killer impact of high frequency meals? You fast, right? So if you fast, you break the root cause of the hyperinsulinemia, and you cause dramatic changes in your body function. So, wait, I can't fast. I get hangry, right? So, no, this is wrong. You can fast. You're actually deeply addicted to sugar and insulin resistant. So you have to eat all the time to keep your energy level up. So if you fast and you get to the point where you can be in a fat burning state, you won't get hangry again, right? So you will not get hangry if you can access the fat that's inside your body. So if you're starting at a very imbalanced metabolic state, if you're 400 pounds and you have type 2 diabetes, then it may take a long time to get to the point where you can access the fat that your body has. But saying, I get hangry, won't I, be distracted? I think I have another slide about this, but I find that on my non-fasting, as I'm planning to eat, if I have to skip a meal or two, don't even care, right? It doesn't impact me. I am much more flexible with my patterns of eating because my blood glucose is always fairly low. I have some ketones in my body, and the free fatty acids in my body are ready for metabolism at a moment's notice. I don't have fluctuations in my energy because I am fat adapted. Okay, so high meal frequency leads to starvation-like symptoms. It's very ironic, right? And the weight is really hormone regulated. If you lower your calorie intake, your hormones say, we're starving, let's lower our metabolism. And so then the calories in, calories out model doesn't work. Eat less and move more diet plans, it blames these poor people who fail in their dieting because, I ate a little bit, but I'm really hungry now, right? You're weak. You don't have willpower. So that's a really sad and ironic, state, right? So if you nibble all the time, then you'll have high insulin and you'll feel hungry. So it's cheap and easy to fast. Here's my easy button from my previous talk. Fasting integrates with whatever energy source you're already using. If you're a celiac, okay, no wheat, fine. If you're a vegan or a vegetarian, sure, you can eat that. It doesn't matter. Keep eating what you're comfortable with, but introduce therapeutic fasting into your plans. Conflicts of interest. Yeah, this is almost a joke, but I was reading an article about myths, presumptions, and facts about obesity, and there's this long list of PhDs. But this is a paragraph that was in the paper. This Dr. Ostrup reports getting payment from the Global Dairy Platform and Kraft Foods and Jenny Craig and Novo Nordisk and all these different companies. But other than that, other than this giant paragraph, there's no conflicts of interest relevant to this article reported. So other than this giant paragraph of conflict, there's no conflict. So that's when I break out my tinfoil hat and say, what's your plan? What's the marketing plan? What's the ROI for your idea, Cyrus? People always will spear me with that because I just say, hey, I just want to understand this yield phenomena. I don't care if we can sell it. I just want to understand. But is it possible that big corn or ag or these other people want sick, hungry people to buy their products? A third of the Americans with obesity buy a lot of drugs, right? So I'm not sure, it's free and it's easy to fast and it will cure you from disease. So who wins with that, right? Well, it might not be the drug companies. So who should not fast for long periods? If you're super underweight, probably want to fix that before you fast. Eat a lot more fat. If you're underweight, you should be on a high-fat diet. These high-fat diets, I think, are actually great, right? High-carb diets are killer. If you're pregnant, breastfeeding, or a child, you need to think about it. And maybe, again, just a high-fat diet. But having some periods of low insulin is still super important. I guess, you need medical supervision. I recommend medical supervision. So there we go. And I'm not a doctor. Don't take any advice from me. This is just what I've learned. I think the ketogenic diet might be a really healthy option for children and moms or moms to be. But the ketogenic diet, I think I'm about to get to it. But so again, when you fast and you start burning fat, your body it's not very efficient for your body to produce glucose from fat. You can do it, but it's not very efficient. So instead, your body produces ketones. And there's a molecule mix, acetone, high-butyl oxalate, and one other molecule that your body makes that are ketone bodies that are efficient to make from fat. And your brain uses them, and all your mitochondria use them, but your red blood cells don't have any mitochondria inside them because they're so small and efficient, so they need some glucose. So if you're in a ketogenic state, it means that you're burning fat. And so if you don't eat any carbs and you're still eating, then you will be in a ketogenic state. So if you eat a diet that's super high in fat and relatively low in protein and almost no carbs, that's called a ketogenic diet. And so if you have dementia, or Alzheimer's, you should switch to a ketogenic diet. It can heal your Alzheimer's. But if you stay, anyways, I'm going to come back to the diet summaries, but a ketogenic diet is one that has extremely low carbs and keeps you in a ketosis state, or a state of pure fat metabolism, not carbohydrate metabolism, as a dominant energy source for the body. So the same insulin resistance that I've been whining about, it biases children to obesity, and it biases women to gestational diabetes. So gestational diabetes is when you become insulin resistant as part of your pregnancy, right? So, and it's definitely on the rise as well. And so this high insulin resistance, high meal frequency, also has a big cause or outcome of having this gestational diabetes incidence increasing. And these poor kids, 15% of kids are obese, right? So they become, insulin resistant in utero, and when they come out, they start eating sugar all the time, and then you end up insulin resistant as a child. So it's not, as big as the fraction of adults. Hopefully they're running around a little bit more, but it's still a problem even in childhood. So this is kind of a list of tips, and I think this will be published, and you can come back and look at this. But drink water, a small amount of salt, or bone broth, even some very small nutrient diffuse foods can help do extended fasting. I drink bulletproof coffee, ride out the hunger wave. So if you eat food, you release a hormone called ghrelin, which makes you hungry. So if you're fasting and you eat a little bit, then you're going to feel even more hungry. So I just kind of ride it out, and I'm okay. Don't tell people who aren't supportive of your fasting. Don't snack at night, even on non-fasting days. So this will help break that cycle of insulin resistance. Eat whole foods, right? Eat lots of foods with fiber in the carbs. If you're eating these carbs with no fiber in them, then they have a higher glycemic index. They spike your insulin faster, and they kind of lead more down that addiction pathway. Vinegar can... Yep. I have a slide on it, so I think it's my next slide. So I'll come back to that. Vinegar improves insulin resistance and allows an easier transition to fasting. So again, insulin sensitivity is super, super good, right? So you want to be able to just use a little bit of insulin and control your blood sugar. So if you eat vinegar, that improves insulin sensitivity. When you're coming off of your fast, that first meal that you have, your breakfast, eat a little bit just to start, and then eat your main meal after that. Start with a little bit of salad or nuts or olives. The first few weeks of the fasting can be the most difficult, right? So you're transitioning from being a carb burner to a fat burner. So in that transition time, it'll be uncomfortable, right? So keep going. And keep a detailed fasting food journal and document what works and doesn't work for you. So, isn't it important to have breakfast every morning? No. Right? Breakfast means breaking the fast, and it's okay to have any time of the day. So for me, what happens if I skip a fast? My metabolism is tough now, right? So I am a tougher person now that I am fat adapted. My metabolism doesn't care if I skip a meal or I skip a fast, whatever, right? So my boss says, hey, let's go to lunch with blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, it's Monday. I'll go to lunch. I'll eat. I don't want to disrupt it. I don't care, right? So the business lunch or a holiday, I skip my fast. I miss one low insulin period, but I come back. I'm okay. It doesn't matter. I don't mind skipping a meal on my non-fasting days. So like last Friday, I was working, just skipped it. I normally wouldn't fast. I wouldn't skip a meal on a Friday, but I did. Okay. So what about ketogenic diets? Next one is bulletproof coffee. So this is the macro breakdown of keto. So it's low carb, high fat diets, controls your insulin and improves your insulin sensitivity. So this can be a really therapeutic diet plan, right, where you're eating 75% of your calories from fat, and only less than 5%, or as few as you can get. You should still eat a lot of vegetables, and they have fiber and a small amount of carbs in there, right? Eat as much lettuce as you want, right? It's fine. There's a little carb in there, but it doesn't matter, right? So that's going to be adding into your fiber. You have no dense carbohydrate sources in a ketogenic diet. And there's tons and tons of books on this. So this one fellow named Dr. Jockers, who I really, really like, he recommends a cyclic ketogenic diet, where you're on keto, and you're obviously in the keto state on your fasting days, but then maybe on the weekend or whatever, you eat some carbs. And when you transition back and forth, again, your body likes to oscillate between being in one state and another. So if you're in a persistent insulin-resistant state your whole life, then you get diabetes, heart disease, and dementia. That's bad. But if you oscillate between ketogenic and then you go back onto carbs on the weekend, then you get to eat carbs on the weekend, and that's good. So it can also be good hormonally, and if you go on and off of keto, type of diet, then it can there's other hormonal balance benefit that I haven't studied too detailed, but this guy says it's a good thing, and he calls it a cyclic ketogenic diet. And you can see the picture of it there. So you're on keto in between your two fasting days during the week. So what's bulletproof coffee? So a lot of times on my fasting days in the morning, I eat a little bit of fat. So if you eat carbohydrates, you make insulin. If you eat protein, you make insulin. If you eat fat, you don't make any insulin. And remember, the whole root cause of this whole problem is insulin resistance. So I mix a little bit of coconut oil or MCT oil, which is a medium chain triglyceride. It's a fractionated coconut oil product. It's just basically this caprylic acid by itself almost, and maybe 10-15 milliliters of butter. Mix it in your coffee, put it in the blender. It's kind of like half and half. It tastes good. It's a high-fat drink, and I drink that in the morning. If you have a lot of weight to lose, you should probably just say, hey, I'm going to burn the fat that's already in my body. But if you're at your target weight, this gives me a huge energy boost on my fasting days. And sometimes I have it on a non-fasting day too. So I think I want to have time for questions. I hope there are a few, but I need to keep going fast. Alcohol can mix with fasting. I don't like to drink on my, maybe one drink, but I don't like to have two on a fasting day. So here's a diet regime summary. So intermittent fasting provides revolutionary benefits. So you need low meal frequency, normal calories, and you have variable, flexible macronutrient. You can control your insulin well with this diet strategy. So that's easy. So low meal frequency, I'm saying it's fairly easy to achieve. You may debate with me about, hey, you really just don't eat for 24 hours? Yeah, you'll be fine. But it's not trivial to do. But, going super low calories is really hard. It's hard on your body. It has bad results. Going low fat, this low calorie, low fat diet is just killer. It's the worst possible recommendation for your body. These ketogenic diets, it's variable on meal frequency. I would say fasting is more important than going into a ketogenic diet. But if you're super obese or you have, hyperinsulinemia already, then the ketogenic diet can be a really valuable tool. But these other diets basically were older and they didn't quite get it yet. But now the science is in, we're ready, we're done. Okay, so the high meal frequency is the root cause. Brain function is really, really the most important. That's the trump card for me. I don't care about how I look. I just care about how I feel, how my brain works. And the 2 periods of intermittent fasting for me works really well. And more research is needed on the impact on brain function, IQ, gestation, etc. So here's some references. I want to thank my family for encouraging me. I'm really happy that ASML gave me this platform. I'm super, super excited about it. And I want to thank all you guys for your attention.
Too bad you're not passionate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you take any supplements?
Whole food. My doctor once told me to take a vitamin D supplement, and so I do take that.
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D. Okay. I'm kind of pasty white, probably because I'm inside all the time.
Has anyone tried have breakfast, lunch, but no dinner when you were fasting? You recommended 2 days fasting, right?
Sure. I don't care when you eat. You need to have time with low insulin. You need to have extended time with low insulin. If you do that, you'll be okay. So, think back to the time constant of your liver glycogen content, right? It depends on how insulin resistant you are to start with. Your starting condition and your genetic predisposition has a big impact on the starting condition. But if you want to skip, and my mom actually told me recently that she likes to have lunch be her last meal of the day. So she'll have lunch, and then she skips dinner, and she skips breakfast the next day, and she skips lunch the next day, and then she eats dinner again after that fast, right? So it doesn't really matter that much how you do it. When you want to move that fasting window around, it doesn't matter. And a lot of these guys that are really fighting, type 2 diabetes, and these people that are really, really sick in the starting condition, they recommend 2, 3 day, 4, 5, 6, 7 day water fasts. 7 days, no food. Because they are so obese, they have such high insulin resistance, it takes them 3 days for their liver to actually get emptied out. Because their liver is so sick to start with, right? So the starting condition really matters, but if you're of a normal BMI, you have a good starting place, then 24 hours is good. That's what worked well for me. I don't know, if you say, hey, I really like doing 3-day fast, that is really potentially very therapeutic and valuable. I don't know, how much, the big one for me is this autophagy, right? This one, right? Your cells don't repair themselves until you get to low insulin. So does this happen after 1 day or does it take 3 days? I don't know. I feel pretty good. I don't know.
So I've been reading books on fasting with my Japanese doctors, and one of the doctors says when you pretty much form protein from hunger, that's when the two major DNA is kicking in. One is anti-cancer, trying to protect your body. In other words, the body is independently can I need to start protecting myself for any attack. When you are suddenly hungry, that's really. Another one is longevity DNA. It's not a red animal test on that, don't have any possibility that you can get less, extends your life, much healthier.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, right? Heart disease, cancer, asthma, the cerebrovascular diseases, all of them, Alzheimer's, look at this. This is the top 10 list of causes of death, right? And these yellow line items are all stemming from the root cause of insulin resistance. At least it's a significant contributor to the disease mechanism. Yep. Go ahead, Tim.
Great talk. So happy I'm here for this talk. So I now, previously, I just realized that I've been picking up a bad habit of eating snacks at night. So now definitely cut that down. One question I have for you, though, is after exercise,
right?
You feel really good and really hungry.
Right.
What should I do?
It's a good question. Yeah, drink water. Yeah, I think you could drink a little bit of put a quarter teaspoon of salt in your water.
So not really taking this good time to eat and just work out.
Yeah,
several hundred calories and something.
Yeah, no, you're already you're in a fat burning state. If you exercise really, really hard, even if you do have high insulin, you can switch over just while you're exercising to a fat burning state. And a lot of people are using that mechanism as the only mechanism they ever burn fat, which is really bad, right? So it's really best to have low insulin as the root cause of your fat burning state, and then you're burning fat whether you're exercising or not. But when you're exercising, the human growth hormone and exercising in a fasted state is the best exercise that you can do.
Okay.
And you don't have to eat afterwards. You'll be fine.
You have like a pie chart show the food composition. I think 70% is fat.
Oh, that's just for the ketogenic diet.
Yeah. How do you get 30% fat in your food, the meal?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Right. So that some people they say you start with a bacon, avocado, olive oil. You can get it. Fat is super nutrient dense, and it makes you feel really full, right? And you feel really good when you eat it. And although past 30 years of dogma is totally wrong, so fat is good. Go eat it. You'll be fine. You can get tons of calories from fat. It's super high calorie. Eat a steak. You'll be fine. Well, no, yes. So getting fat without protein, so nuts are fairly low in protein, but they have some carbs. And then, you've got all your oils, right? Coconut oil, olive oil, avocados. Avocados are low carb and low protein. So they're basically really good whole food that you can eat. And then, you should eat a whole lot of vegetables, I think I had the picture on the first slide.
Green vegetables, colored vegetables like grain sugar.
Yeah, eat that stuff. Yeah, avocados and nut oils, nuts. And I like meat. I mean, I like to eat. I'm from Texas. I got a pork belly in my sous vide at home right now. Okay, good question. So juice, and I had it as one of the line items. It says, if you eat carbs, eat them with fiber. So juice is the fruit, sugars without the fiber. So that's probably questionable to not recommended, honestly, right? So if you're doing a cyclic ketogenic diet, you should be avoiding fruit juices during your keto time. And certainly you should avoid any juice on a fasting time, right? So again, fasting is water. Maybe bone broth. That's it. So really, and imagine yourself being religious or meditating or concentrating really deeply on your work and drinking only water and no snacks and no juice and no calories. That is important for your brain, right? Thought we'd run out of time with questions, but maybe we didn't. I am really, again, thank you guys again for the attention, and I had fun preparing this talk. And I'm a little excited about it.